Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we're going to discuss. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we're going to discuss. We're going to keep going from yesterday, where we discussed the checklist to open a successful assisted living. Step one. This is just step one continued. We're going to cover 4 week menu cycle. Let me move this thing again. 4 week menu cycle, staff structure, workman's compensation, whether you need it or not, application for licensure, licensing fees. We don't have that anymore in Maryland. And then a delegate nurse, what's your expectations and how to find and what you should be paying or what you should be expecting to pay your delegate nurse. So we're not going to take no time. We're gonna get right into it. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and I'll answer them as we go. So first and foremost, when it comes to applying, there are some documents that have to go with your application, and one of those documents is a 4 week menu cycle um, that the state wants to see signed by a licensed dietitian or nutritionist. So um, you have to find it, you have to get it. We have it in our business set startup kit, but it's not signed by nutritionist, so you have to get it signed. I'm going to pull it up here real quick so you guys can at least see what it looks like. um let's see, do a new share just so you guys can get a look at what it looks like and what's all there. Obviously we're not going to go through the whole menu because it's a pretty detailed document or spreadsheet. So what you have here is regular menus. This is week one, as you can see up here. Um, Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and all the different things, all the proteins, the measurements, everything that you're gonna have. You know, everything that each individual is gonna eat that day. You have it all here in the menu. This is very important information. The state obviously wants it, so uh, this is something that you have to have every. So this is a regular. This is a regular meal. This is a heart healthy meal. Renal, mesh soft, puree, all for week one. Now I'm not saying that the state requires all of these different menus, but they do want to see at least a regular menu for week one, week two, and we go down here. Yeah, you can see the whole thing. Week two, week three. And again, you have all your measurements, everything outlined, even the cost. Excuse me, even the cost. So that's pretty helpful as well to have the cost there. And if you're going to be buying from like U.S. Foods or Cisco or something like that, when you get a bigger facility, these costs, they put the cost as well. But then, if you're just shopping at a regular place, you'll get a better understanding of the cost. Um, but this is a really great start. You can always, substitute different meals out, but you always want to have the nutritional values and stuff like that, just on your menu. So it's really helpful for the doctors and the nurses and everyone else can understand, what everybody's eating and, their health and what they're getting and stuff like that in relation to, their ongoing care and then like what medications they're on and stuff like that. So this is a 4 week menu plan. This is 4 weeks, but this goes out further. So 5 weeks. It goes out to 5 weeks. So This is a 4-week menu plan. This is something that's mandatory when you submit your application in the state of Maryland. And if you're in a state where you don't need it, you still want to have it. Obviously, you post it, you post it on the board, on some board in the kitchen, so everybody can know what's going to be for the meal as the week goes by, day to day for the staff, the cooks, obviously, whoever's going to be doing the cooking, so on and so forth. So that's real simple, real straightforward. The menu cycle, the 4-week menu cycle. Let's get back here. So staff structure. So what we've been discussing is basically a smaller assisted living, or like I say, like a boutique style residential assisted living. Um, One thing I wanted to discuss, thinking back about the previous business plan that we were looking at yesterday, was that when you're setting up your facility, one thing you don't want to do is hire too many um, hourly staff members. The ideal staff structure, for what I think, is always to have at least one living caregiver. And depending upon how many residents you have, one living caregiver. If you have more than five residents, you might need one living caregiver and a full-time, but then one, or you can have one living caregiver and a part-time. And again, it all depends on the level of care, the amount of residents you have at the time. But the one living caregiver can make a huge difference on your payroll. And that's where you're usually going to payroll is basically going to determine if you're going to win and lose in home care. I mean, in residential assisted living, especially when it comes to these smaller facilities. So, um, opposed to paying someone hourly, you can pay them daily. So, and along with that daily rate, they would not only just be getting the opportunity to get paid, they also would have the opportunity to, not pay rent. They can eat, they can eat out of the facility. They don't have to pay for food. They get free electric, obviously free internet. So there's a lot of benefits, free room and board pretty much, that comes along with that pay rate. So you want to try to get them, you want to have a live-in 7 days a week, whether that's two different live-ins or sometimes it's one live-in. Some live-ins don't mind working 7 days a week. Some I've seen work months at a time, like straight through. Obviously, that doesn't mean they're working 24 hours a day. A live-in shouldn't be working no more than 13 hours a day. And then also, they should be getting at least 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep and 8 hours of sleep total every night. So what does that mean? That means they can take naps, they can take breaks and stuff like that. So with the facility, a 5 bed, say say like a 6 bed, a 5 bed facility, live in, a part-time caregiver that comes in, say 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, you should be fine. Then you have your assistant living manager, who's going to be, there coming through occasionally, making sure everything is kind of managing them. And what I suggest is what I was referring to yesterday, is that be you, especially in the beginning. So you're the administrator slash manager, and then also, and you want to come in on a regular basis, especially in the beginning. I would suggest coming on a daily basis, to just make sure that your facilities is running properly. People are getting up at the proper times, and medications and everything is going smooth. Showers, meals, whatever maybe activities you have going on. If there's transportation or people are coming and visits and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you're present to see some of this stuff happening as often as you can. Um, Into your caregivers are comfortable, managing these activities, these day-to-day operations. And then there's going to be, obviously, it's going to be the delegate nurse. So this is just, I'm just kind of like outlining your staff structure. um, a lot of people like to think that they might want to have they might need a housekeeping. I would suggest you could do like a housekeeping. You could like hire outsource like housekeeping like once a week for like a deep clean, or like every 2 weeks for a deep clean. But your part-time caregiver, they should, if it's not a really, really busy day, or if it's not like a really busy facility, where they should be able to still get some stuff done as far as cleaning, obviously making beds, light housekeeping, laundry, dishes, just keeping everything as clean and as tidy as possible. That's the caregiver should be able to do that. So in these smaller facilities, you don't want to have to hire like a housekeeper and then a cook and then and then your care staff. Your care staff should in most cases will have the time, the free time after their resident or is at a table or sitting in a chair or wherever they're going to be after a shower, back in their room, wherever they want to, wherever they want to be. They should have the ability to go back into and then, get some stuff done, like tidy up and things of that nature. So you shouldn't have to hire a home housekeeper alongside with a cook and stuff like that, because again, your caregiver should be able to cook. These are some of the things that you want your caregivers to do. What we also would suggest is to have your live-in, if they're, you want to have somebody that lives there, a pretty competent person, somebody who's been in it for a while, who's been doing home care for a while or home health care for a while. They have all their certifications. They have to be med tech certified so they can pass meds, stuff like that. But then also there's another layer to that. What you can offer them as a value add is to put them through the training of being putting them through the 80-hour assisted living managers course. And why do we do that? What we like to see is an on-site 24-hour assisted living manager, which will make you sleep much better at night, because now you're the assisted living manager and now you have your alternate actually living there. And that's a great thing, to have someone who can manage the whole facility just like you can. They're not getting necessarily paid to do it, but they did get the free training and they do have that certification, and they do pick up on some of the slack from you, or some of the things that can help you out at another level besides just being a great caregiver. So, and that can also, you can increase their pay as well, if they're doing more activities beyond what their general caregiver job description is. So that's a great way to set up your staff structure. What we have is your live in, your part time, depending on the level of care and the amount of residents you need. You might need another full time or part time, full time caregiver. Yourself as the assisted living manager / administrator, and then your delegate nurse. We're going to get into the delegate nurse. Let's talk a little bit about workman's compensation. Different states require different things. So in Maryland, we're allowed to use uh, independent contractors. So we really like to use independent contractors. It's just an easier process. But I would definitely talk with your accountant, because every situation is different. Everybody's financial situation is different. And I can't necessarily give tax advice. And this comes down to tax advice when you talk about what you want to do and how you want to pay and how you want to structure your business financially. But Maryland does allow you to use independent contractors under certain circumstances where they have to be insured on their own and have their own kind of like business entity set up. And we do help them with that process. So make sure, if this is something that you're thinking about going in that direction, that you're going to have your state look into your state's requirements, because each state is different when it comes to this. So if you're not going to have, if you're going to have full-time employees like was it, if you're not going to use uh if you're not going to use 1099 employees, or if you're not going to use independent contractors, you're going to use traditional employees, you're going to need workman's compensation. So make sure you check and make sure exactly what you can and can't do before you take a step further within employment of your of your staff. Real quick, I want to look at the go to the next application for licensure, what that looks like. Most states give you like an instruction package and then also the actual license. I'm gonna share the screen here so we can look at that as well. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below. Got my windows open so y'all can hear all the city sounds. It's beautiful outside. Can't sit in here like that without the, okay. Be right. There we go. Share. So this is the Maryland's assisted living application, instructions for completion. So this can easily be downloaded on your from Google. You just put assisted living application Maryland, or you put assisted living application whatever state you're in, and you'll usually get some kind of documentation that pops up, the free download, a PDF of some sort that's going to allow you to see exactly what the process is. So application for licensure. To obtain a license, complete application form must to obtain a license, a complete application form must be submitted with all related required documentations. Only when all documentations have been received in its entirety and approved will a nurse surveyor contact you to schedule a paper review. So on-site facility, charge may be $200 per additional on-site. So if you're not prepared when they come, they might charge you an extra $250. Require application section. So general information, ownership, background, workman's comp, affidavit. Let's look at this. So required documentation for initial application. A hand-drawn sketch, like I was telling you previously, you just need a hand-drawn sketch. 8 by 11-inch paper for each level of the building, label each room, sketch indicate measurements for all rooms, refer to Kumar to determine the minimum size for the residence room, a uniform disclosure statement. I should have pulled that out. I forgot all about that. Matter of fact, we'll pull up the universal disclosure statement next on the next training. A universal disclosure statement, I'll give you a basic brief understanding of what that is. Hold on, let me see if I can click it. No, it's not clickable here. So a universal disclosure statement is basically a uniform disclosure statement is basically a form that you have to submit to the state, and then you have to also submit it to your residents, whoever signed the contract. The people that's coming to you're going to be doing business with. It's not necessarily always the residents. Sometimes it's the family. It's usually the family. So on this statement, on this document, you're going to outline everything that's offered in your facility, from toilet paper to food to from everything that's offered within the price of your facility's monthly rate. And what's not, then you have to kind of separate what's not offered. So the family won't come back later on and say, oh, we thought it was going to be 8 meals a day or 5 meals in an inshore, or we thought you were going to take care of, diapers or depends or whatever, so they won't come back. You want to make sure it's the state wants to make sure it's outlined, and you want to make sure it's outlined, and the family wants to make sure it's outlined, and the state requires this document so everybody's on the same page. So if there's ever a discrepancy between the family or the client and the facility, the state has the document, you have the document, and they have the document that says, okay, well, on this document it says these things were included and these things weren't, and they want to make sure that's there up front, and you have to fill that out up front as well. That's part of the documentation that goes with the application. A 4-week menu cycle, we just discussed that. A copy of Verify showing that you own a building, lease, or otherwise have control. Um, so you have this, like I was saying, submit a lease or ownership, showing ownership of the building. A copy of your program's approved fire inspection report. We talked about that. How on the previous training, contacting the fire department, having all your fire extinguishers, your fire exits, and then also your fire detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. That's 5, 6. A copy of your zoning approval and or occupancy use and occupancy permit if applicable. So because I'm saying it's not always mandatory. So you have to just check with most jurisdictions require approval and or permits to operate a 6-bed facility, 6+ bed facility. Exceptions include, like you said, Baltimore City, da 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 da. So you just have to contact your city and see what your state requires and your city requires. That's usually a city issue. If your program does not have workman's compensation insurance and does not have any employees submit a letter of exemption. So what you have to do with that letter of exemption here in Maryland is you just submit, you download the exemption form, you fill it out, and then you send it back to the state. That exemption form, I think you have to call the workman's compensation office, and then they'll send you a paper, and then you send it back, and you just sign in, just tell them that you're not going to be using you're going to be using independent contractors, and you won't be needing workman's compensation insurance. And then you send it back, and they send you approval, and then they give you like a certification, like a certificate of approval. It's a really simple thing, and they send it back really quickly. So that was where are we at. So that was 7. So 8. If your program is 17 beds or more, submit a copy of your program's food service permit for a local health department. That's a 17 beds or more. 9. Then you have to add 9 if at 9, step 9, if your program is 17 beds or more, send an approved physical site plan review from Maryland State engineers. That's 9. So that's 17 beds or more. And then it just goes into like different counties, like Howard County's requirements, Montgomery County, Baltimore City. So there's difference in Baltimore County. So like each county may have different requirements. So you want to make sure in your state or in your county, in your city, in your jurisdiction, whatever, everybody's on the same page and you're okay to start up, and you contacted everyone to make sure that you're going to get approved and you're not doing anything wrong, or you're not skipping any steps. So 13 is Baltimore County. If 14 is disclosed, if the disclosure incorporation submit a copy of a good standing, oh yeah, your LLC has to be in good standing. You can't have like your LLC has to be in good standing. So when they search it online, it comes up that you don't have any back taxes, or you're not it hasn't expired and stuff like that. And then 15 is about a specialty unit. So if you're going to have like a specialty unit or care, you got to submit a different level of a different disclosure form. that's going to show that you're going to be offering like specialized dementia care and stuff like that, like have a specific dementia unit. And this doesn't mean that you can't take dementia patients. It's just that you're going to be designated as a facility that has a special program or unit, and it's a little tougher to get, but you can do it. It's just you just have to go to take a few more steps. So after you submit the application, the scheduled paper review comes next. Um, and it says, do not submit these items with your application. Um, number one, the assisted living manager staff record which must contain written evidence that the manager meets all experience, education, age, and health and training requirements. Basically, they have to have been in the industry. They have to go through the 80-hour training. They have to be old enough, and they have to be in good health. The alternative managers, same thing. Documentation of they got to have a criminal background for everybody on the LLC and everybody, all the staff, as far as the nurse, because there's going to be a nurse on there. You can't be a nurse, obviously. You got a criminal background, but you can because there's no like state registrar or anything like that for assisted living managers. You go through a course, you get a certification from the nurses program. You want to make sure everybody has a clean background. And same for the nurse quality assurance plan, a business plan, 1 year operating budget, which would demonstrate financial or administrative ability to operate assisted living, a copy of your program's residence agreement, and the sample agreement. All of this stuff is in our package. A copy of your program's policies and procedures. Hold on, man. Sorry about that. A copy of your program's policies and procedures to be implemented in accordance with the following regulations. So these are all of the things that they want to see in your policies and procedures, bed and room, assignment policies, all of that good stuff. 8, where did it go? Keeps moving around. Sorry about that. 8 here, you can see. So it just goes into all the things that they want to see. The state requires to be in your policies and procedures. And this is submitted after they approve your application, your initial application with those documents. Then they want to make sure you have those documentations prepared when they come. So you're not sending it. They're going to be waiting. You want to have that ready during the scheduled paper review. And then to obtain a copy of regulations, visit the division or department. It just shows you where to get all the information that you're going to need, so you can know exactly what goes in the policies and procedures. And then when they have a frequently asked questions, then they have fire inspections. So these are the numbers or the requirements. Basically, if you're going to need so 1 to 5 bed fire inspection office, this is the number. 6 to 5 bed. So I thought this was the part where they require. It's just telling you what's required. So some counties require it. Some counties don't even require you to get a fire inspection. And that's the document. That's the application. That's the instructions. So let's share here. We're gonna go back here and look at the actual application itself. Another fairly simple document. We can look at. And then this is also, hopefully this is helpful for other states. Again, you should find most of this information right on your state's website, the Department of Health website, and they should have these applications and these instructions right there. And if you don't, you might have to go down there and find and ask for them. But these documents should be right there online. So, application for licensure, general information. You won't have a license number. You can have a website. This the legal agency name, If you have a DBA, email, phone number, fax, business address, the physical location, mailing address if it's different, street number, name. So all the basic information here. Does the owner or corporation or partnership operate and manage the assisted living program? Number of beds requested, level of care requested, 1, 2, 3. Level one is obviously the basic care, medium care, and like full care. Are all areas of the assisted living fully constructed at the time of you submitting this application? Because a lot of times people are building them, so they just want to know if you're all the way done with the building process. Name of the manager, phone number, name of the alternate manager, name of the delegate nurse, name, address, phone number, and then the delegate nurse's license number, just basically the nurse's the nurse's state number. The ownership, is it a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation? You put all your corporate information here. Has the applicant, owner, and manager permit to provide third parties have you ever been denied or suspended or revoked for a license? Does it, and then operation, what is it here? Does the applicant currently hold or has the applicant previously held any license certificate for the operation of a healthcare facility? So have you ever done this before? Have you owned any other facility? Does the owner, applicant manager, alternate manager, staff, household manager have a criminal conviction or other criminal history? Yes or no? If yes, explain. Um, and then we got the workman's comp information. And then you just, you're basically signing an affidavit, basically swearing that all this information is true, and then all your owners have to sign here. Everybody who's going to be part of this application, they have to sign to confirm that that their all the information is true and that they're actually want to be part of business. So it's that simple. It's a 1, 2, 3 page application alongside the other documents that we discussed, and that's pretty much it. That's the license for setting up assisted living in the state of Maryland. And like I said, most states should be pretty similar. It shouldn't be too much difference in setup. So let's go back. And okay. And then we have the conversation about licensing fees, which Maryland doesn't require anymore. They took them away. They used to have a licensing fee, so they just eliminated the fees, period. So there's no cost to submit the license, which is a really cool thing. It wasn't that much anyway, like a couple $100 or maybe even $100. But still, it's free now to submit your application. So that's what I was going to discuss at licensure fee. You might have a license fee. Different states have different requirements. They might require some go up to 1,500. Some states can be extremely high, 5,000. But Maryland obviously is free now. And again, you want to make sure that all of this stuff you have all this stuff understood and you know exactly what you're dealing with when you're getting into this stuff. You want to make sure you know exactly what all the fees are and what all the expectations are on your end. So finally, we're going to talk about a delegating nurse. So I have a sample contract from a delegating nurse that I recommend here in Maryland. So let's pull that up and then we'll wrap up the training. All this back and forth. I know it's the easy way to do it. I just don't necessarily be doing the easiest way because I don't be that literate on the computer. I used to thought I was, but I'm not as good on the computers. I thought I was. So here's the contract. Contract for provision of delegated nursing services in assisted living facilities. So what she actually does is comes in as a delegated nurse, and provides the services. Overview. Hold on, let me remember. I can't see. Hold on. Overview the case manager delegated nurse role and responsibilities. So these are her roles and responsibilities outlined in her contract. Kind of just take a quick glance at that. I'm not going to read all of her roles and responsibilities, but she understands that the Maryland Nurse Practices Act cites that include, but not limited to, regulatory regulations governing the registered nurse standards and practices, delegated nurse functioning, regulations. She understands her responsibility of a case manager, delegated nurse, um, and what basically the responsibilities include: a 45-day assessment during the site. The follow-up site visit may occur a minimum of every 45 days. Assessing the clinical status of the client every 45 days. Assessing the assessing the compliancy of the medication. Assessment administering medication at the same time as the 45 day. Also, she can assess the medication as well during those visits. Assessing the tasks to be delegated included complexity, assessing the environment in which the task is to be performed, determining the instruction and frequency of supervisors required and monitoring the caregiver. So she's just really going over the notes, seeing how the facility is operating, and making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do at every level. Registered nurse, delegate nurse, only delegating medication, may only delegate medication administration to an individual who has completed a board-approved medication administration training program. So what she's going to do is approve different caregivers, which your caregiver should definitely must have in Maryland, the ability to pass meds, and that's just a med tech. They call it a med tech certification. Um, and the RN must document the 45-day visit. A registered nurse may not present himself to the facility by limiting their activities to medication review and only examining the medical records. So the RN must follow the standards for delegated nurse based on COMAR. That's just basic. That's Maryland's statutes and policies, and the delegated nurse functionality regulations. So while delegating, so she understands that everything that she does must be to the standard of Maryland's regulatory policies. So these are the to provide the following services: perform services, case management, teach the med tech course or clinician update training. So if they need it, she could do that. Teach as needed. CPR, first aid, infection control. Perform site quality review of client self-administrated medication. Be available for the director to answer questions concerning either medication issue and or medical issues or medication issues. This is another task that she should, makes herself available for. Be available to the director to answer questions concerning either medical. So the contract will renew annually. Either party will terminate the agreement within 30 days with the written notice. With 30 days written notice. Fee schedule is subject to change within 30 days written notice from provider. Boop. So that means she can change the rate set within 30 days notice. These are her fee schedules. Initial rate, initial review rate. Initial review. 150 per resident. Comprehensive assessment 120. 45-day review assessment 100. Medication chart review 35. Service plan, initial service plan 75. Service plan update 50, and so on and so forth. Med pass 50. Caregiver compliancy initial per staff 50. Quality assurance review 50. Wound care assessment, 30, 20-hour CMT training, that's certified med tech classes per student, 250, 4-hour renewal class per student, 150, and American Heart Association BLS, CPR, and first aid training, 100. So this is her rates. Negotiable monthly contract rates are available upon request. So she's not really rigid. She will work with you, especially if you're a new up and coming facility. And this is just some of the things that you want to think about and have access to, and people that you want to start bringing into your network who can help you get set up and start having everything you need to grow your new business. So I hope this was helpful. Just another training here where we discussed what did we discuss today? We discussed quite a few things. We discussed the 4-week menu cycle where we just showed you in the very beginning what a 4-week menu cycle looks like and the importance of it, and having a nutritionist or dietitian sign off on it. We discussed staff structure, how we leverage live-in caregivers, training them up to be assisted living alternative managers, getting them trained, paying for their training, adding value to their career, using a part-time or full-time depending on how many caregivers or how many residents and the level of care is needed at that particular time, based on how you're going to do your scheduling and how you're going to have your staff structured alongside with your delegate nurse, and then yourself, if possible, as the official assisted living manager slash administrator. We talked about workman's comp, the do's and don'ts, some of the things you can and can't do, and what you need to contact your state for. We talked about the application for licensure. We actually walked through the entire license process for the state of Maryland, and hopefully that was helpful and guide you when you reach out to your state and try to figure out what's needed in your state. The license fee, there is none in our state, but there may be one in yours. Make sure you contact it should be on your license, your application, so you'll see it there. And if you don't, make sure that if there's not one, that you're very clear about that. And then we just end it with the delegate nurse responsibilities and contract and some of the pricing fees. So hopefully that information was helpful to you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next training. If you don't have any questions, we're going to jump off of here. Thanks a lot.